learned, through gaming, and obviously I'm playing some Last Epoch right now, just getting ready for the new season. Gonna play some Heartseeker when it comes out, but the correlation between video games and real life is really actually pretty crazy, right? And what I wanted to tell you guys about today was kind of how I've used the same principles in here to kind of do what I did when I was, not doing this at all, and I was, I still run businesses, and that's my primary focus. This is never going to be like my main job, right? Ever. But what I wanted to talk about was how you use the skills in video games to actually, correlate it to real life. Because I think a lot of people don't understand that it's literally the exact same thing. And so, this is my experience. Yours might be different, but this is mine. And what I learned was when I was playing World of Warcraft, because that was primarily before I came back, that was my main game that I would play and stream and do my channel on and everything else. But the main difference, right, or the main thing I learned was, when I was playing video games and when I was, hardcore raiding and trying to, get better and better and better and build myself up in the ranks and get up to where I had ended up getting to. And at some point, we were in the top 25 of U.S. guilds, and when it was 25 man during Garage. That's how long ago, right? And so, the main thing that I realized was like, what I would do that was different than other people, right, is there was a lot of guys in the raid team, especially in some of the guilds when I would start, that would like log in for like basically raid only, and the rest of the time they mess around, right? Whereas like I would go back and look through the kill videos. I would go back through and see what I did rotationally, where I messed up, what the strategies were for the boss, what the top guild mages were doing, right? Like what their positioning was, how many times they were hitting certain spells, what their haste, like I would go back and I would go through the math, and go through the math, and go through the math to try to eke out numbers. And that was how I ended up, obviously progressing where I was. Now I was never, the top guy, but in my raid groups, I was always in the top DPS, depending on procs in the fights, etc. But I was always in the top. I was always one of the best mages, because back then we would take 2 or 3 mages, and so I was just always, pretty talented no matter what my level of competition was, because I would spend a lot of time researching. And when I got out onto my own, I realized that, these skills directly correlate to real life, right? Like you have people who, right, and you'll know this, but you'll have people who show up to your job and they just show up to show up. They show up to get a check. They don't want to get better. They just want to, get in, get out, and move on with whatever they want to do. Instead of, hey, if I'm going to do something, I want to perform at a really high level. And so that was a turning point for me, is when I realized, when I started working in gyms, I was like, if I got this skill set, I could do this better. And if I watch this back and I was looking at how I would train sessions and how I would coach nutrition and how I would correct people and how I would do this, that, and the other. And it was just a constant, even to this day, right? Like I keep analytics that, like in a private folder of things that I want to look at and that I think are key indicators. And like the more I got into business, or the more I realized that, that's actually pretty normal, right? It's like there's KPIs, there's performance indexes, there's all these different things that kind of you can use to measure how you're doing, right? Besides just profit and loss statements and money and things like that, right? There's little nuances to different things. And so one of the things that I've learned over the years is the correlation there. And so basically what I want you guys to think about is, if you feel stuck in those things, but you're really good at this, right? And it doesn't matter what game it is, right? But if you're really good at games in general, one of the things that I would recommend is understanding that this correlates directly correlates. Okay. So if you just use the exact same ways that you got good at games, it will correlate into the exact same ways that you will be good at literally anything in real life. And so, when I learned that, it was a really big deal to me. And, I'm thinking it might help some of you guys out, especially if you're struggling with anything. I know for me, it was a big deal. And so, for what it's worth, I wanted to share that with you, because I've learned over the years, that basically your real life gold, right, translates to, if you used to play the auction house in WoW, right? Like, you'd probably be pretty good at things like the stock market, right? Once you study them and learn them, right? Like the first time you go to trade a piece of gear, you don't know what you're doing. By the 10,000th time you trade a piece of gear, you start to learn what you're doing, right? And then you start to see trends. You start to see where things are underpriced. You start to realize when things are going to go up in price, when things are going to go down in price, right? Like when a new expansion is coming out or a new patch is coming out, certain materials, certain things are going to be worth a ton of money, so you can bank them up and then sell them for a huge profit on release day, right? Like, these are the things that you learn and you nuance, right? Like over the course of experience. And it is the exact same thing in real life. Same thing if you want to get better at your job is, who are the best people at your job currently that are in front of you or that are, topping the meters, so to speak, right? And what do they do that's different than you? How many times are they doing little things? What does their day look like? How are they approaching different aspects, right? And then it's the same exact principles. Is you just say, okay, well, like, hey, if they're doing that, great. And then you study them and you start to do those things, and magically you start to get results like them. And then they see you really trying and really doing a good job, and you try to befriend them and you try to learn from them, and then magically all of a sudden now you're good at those things, right? And then you move up to the next level. And it's the exact same thing as any of these games, right? Like if you just logged into this game, for instance, so I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll figure it out, right? Like it might take you a while to learn, but if you go online and you go look up who's the top X player or what's a build for this, and you find somebody who's put 1,000 hours in, guess what? They're going to save you a bunch of time because they're going to explain why they do what they do, how they do what they do, and all of those different things. And so I encourage you guys that, if you're struggling with stuff in IRL, to think about the skills that you already have. Because if you play games at a level that you think is, higher than average, it probably is. And all you have to do is just take those skills and correlate how you got to that point and what work you put into it to get to the point where you're at, and then just legitimately copy and paste those things over into real life, and you will have success. But like any game, you start at level 1, right? And you start as a noob. And just accept that, right? Like, don't think that you're supposed to be better. Don't think that you're entitled. Don't think that you have some type of thing that no one else has. Because I promise you, right? Like, you're not the first person to log into this game and think that, you're God's gift until you watch somebody who's God's gift play it, right? It's the same thing in any job, right? There's going to be people who are way better because they have way more experience. They built a skill set for that particular game, et cetera, et cetera. So the only thing that you have to do is just figure out what game you want to play, whether it be, professional, like, a production style job, money, like any of those skills all correlate. And so, I wanted to make a video explaining that because it's, it's worked for me. It's something I still continue to do to this day. It's funny to me, like there'll be things that I'm doing where I go, oh man, I remember and I used to do this with my mage, right? And, I'll giggle to myself because no one else will get it, but I will, and that's what matters. And so I want you guys to understand that is legitimately, and your experience might be different, but that's how I've ended up being able to do what I've done, and I hope that helps you guys. So